So yeah, I'm speaking to you from Canada. That's where I'm from and where I went back to after I finished my master's degree, the Erasmus master's degree. I think everyone is probably concerned after they graduate with how soon they get hired and can find a job. I graduated in September of 2023, and I started looking for jobs in November of 2023, and I got a job offer in January of 2024. So once I started applying for jobs, it was actually less than 2 months before I got an offer, which is always a bit of a sigh of relief, I think, when you're finished graduating and looking for work. The position, I interviewed for a number of different positions, actually. So Canada has a pretty big salmon aquaculture sector. So I did apply for a few research and development positions in that sector. I also looked at government positions. So we have a Department of Fisheries and Oceans, which is also responsible for aquaculture, governing aquaculture legislation in Canada, and I did some applications there. I did some applications that wouldn't necessarily be top of mind. So I grew up in Toronto, and Toronto has a really big aquarium called Ripley's Aquarium. It's a public aquarium. And when I was applying for jobs, they were looking for an aquarist to help take care of their aquarium tanks and all the fish in the aquarium. And the aquaculture degree is actually a pretty perfect fit for doing that kind of work as well. So that's also something I looked into. And then my background before starting my master's degree in aquaculture health management was in environmental science. And I actually ended up landing in a position that kind of combined my environmental science bachelor's degree with my aquaculture degree. So I currently work in environmental consulting for a private company. And that company does a variety of work. They do terrestrial stuff, they do aquatic stuff. And I was hired more to work in the aquatic realm, particularly in monitoring aquatic habitats and wild fish salmonid populations in Canada. And so I do a variety of work in that realm. Some of it is routine monitoring for the government. They're interested in monitoring those populations and how they're doing. Some of it is if there is industry work. So, for example, Canada has a lot of mines and mine processing facilities that require water intake from a lot of our major streams and rivers. And so a lot of the work that I do is doing assessments of fish populations to see how those industries are impacting our fish populations and their health, as well as the health of their environment. And so for me, when I was interviewing and when I was getting hired, I think one, it was interesting to a lot of employers that through my master's degree, I had been in a lot of different countries. A lot of employers were very interested to hear about the experiences I had. I studied in Ghent, and then I did the Norway path. So I lived in Norway for a year, and we're very interested in learning about the different experiences I've had there. I think a lot of employers are interested in employees who have a diverse range of experiences and can bring something new to the table that, maybe is not a focus in your home country, or just different techniques that are applied in different places. So I think that was something that was actually quite helpful for me to help me stand out when I was applying for jobs here in Canada. And then for my role in particular, I would say my background in fish health, like having an understanding of fish anatomy and just requirements for general fish health, was one of the key reasons that I was hired. But also the aquaculture program in Ghent and all of the other consortium universities talks a lot about zootechnics, which is essentially providing fish habitat that is appropriate for rearing healthy fish. And so that's relevant both in farm situations as well as wild situations. You need to have certain, water characteristics in order to have happy, healthy fish. And so being able to do water quality testing, which is something that I did a lot of during my master's thesis, was another skill that my employer was looking for specifically. And then I think also that's something that's important to note is that in my field, a bachelor's degree is sufficient to get hired into this field, but having a master's degree affords a number of benefits. So one of those benefits is taking on some of these larger projects in research and planning. So some of the projects that I work on industry impacts, those are the reports that we write are read at the federal level. So there's federal government officials who are reading those reports. They're sometimes used legally, both in Canada and the US. So when I was getting hired into this position, my employer was really looking for academic writing skills. And so having that background in writing a master's thesis was also really critical. They were looking for someone who had a master's degree and was able to do scientific reporting and writing, particularly writing that will stand up to assessments by professionals in the field. And I guess the other thing that's worth mentioning too is I think in a lot of countries, there's professional designations that allow you to work professionally in different industries. The environmental consulting industry in Canada, you are required to be registered as a professional biologist in order to operate in this sphere. And you do need to have a bachelor's degree to get that professional designation. Having a master's degree, so you need both academic experience and professional experience. And my master's degree actually counted towards my professional experience, so it was able to help me get that designation faster than I otherwise would. Which can be quite helpful. And if there's professional designations for jobs that you're interested in, may be relevant for that as well. I think I had considered, when I graduated, I had considered going on to do a PhD, and decided that I wanted to get some kind of hands-on experience before I decided whether I wanted to continue with my academic journey, and also what I wanted to study for my PhD. And I think it's been really valuable. There's a lot of skills that you get from hands-on experience. And some of those skills I got during my internship, during the Erasmus Mundus program. And maybe actually circling back to what employers are looking for, I think a lot of employers are really interested in what you learn in the academic realm, particularly interested in talking about how you might apply that if you get hired. But they're also really interested in hands-on experience, so that the internship opportunities in the AquaH Erasmus are really great for getting that hands-on experience, as well as a lot of the lab work that we do too. So you have those skills that you're kind of ready to apply as soon as you get into the professional realm. In terms of options between employment right away or continuing the academic career, I'm still deciding what I want to do, if I want to continue working, or if maybe in a year or two I would go do my PhD. So I think probably if I wasn't doing the work I'm doing now, it would be a PhD program that I'd be participating in. But there are, I think maybe sometimes you hear aquaculture and you think like, oh, that's maybe a little bit niche. Like when I graduate, there's only opportunities in aquaculture. And first of all, there's a lot of opportunities in aquaculture. We saw on the last slide that you can be in research and development, you can be in quarantine, you can be a vet. So there's a lot of opportunities in there. But I also think that this program provides a lot of skills if you're just interested in working with fish and fish health in general. And so, yeah, like it applies to environmental consulting, it applies to aquariums, a lot of different things. In terms of kind of like still being connected back to the AquaH program, I am still in contact actually with a lot of the people that I went to school with, particularly the people that that were in Norway at the same time as me. I have some friends who are doing PhDs now in Norway. I have some friends who got jobs in Denmark. And so it was actually really great to have that network, I think, when you graduate from the program, just to like check in and see how people are, just catch up, but also it's great because people kind of disperse around the world after the program, and you get a sense of what they're doing and what opportunities are available to you, whether that's academic or professional work. And I also think that the AquaH network is quite extensive. So it, of course, includes the universities that help provide the program and their partners, which were mentioned. But for me, I was always pretty interested in moving back to Canada. And my professors knew professors who were working in Canada, and also knew people in the private sector who were working in Canada. And we're happy to help facilitate kind of making those connections in my home country, even though I didn't study here. And so I think that's one of the things that's pretty unique about participating in one of these international Erasmus programs is the networks are quite extensive, and you meet people that have worked all over the world with all different kinds of people. And so your opportunities when you leave the program, there's a lot of people who can help try to get you where you want to go. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I have to say.